Super. So as I creep back, hopefully the volume adjusts as I move back to the chair. So of course you can try and position your screen so you can see yourself on the chair. And that's lovely for me because then I can just check in and see how you're doing. And that might be a profile or you might be facing. It's absolutely fine, whatever works for you. Maybe it's more straightforward to be able to visualize and see what's going on. And if you need me to turn to the side, just let me know. So if we're sitting on our chairs, firstly, let's think about alignment, because we really do need to think about alignment when we're practicing our yoga sitting on a chair. So we're not sitting in an ordinary fashion. We want to be really feeling the sitting bones onto the chair. So for me, for instance, I've shimmied right to the front of the chair because I've got little old legs. And you'll want to make sure that you can touch the floor with your feet. So the feet are fully grounded. So you don't want to be kind of touching with the toes and swinging the legs off the side. And what you can do, depending on the height of your chair, because if it's a dining chair, for instance, it might be quite high up, you can always bring the floor to your feet. So I doubt that you'll need this, guys, but if, say, you were very little, you might want to put a block under the feet. You might want to play with that anyway, because actually sometimes that can lift the knees up to the sitting bones and just create a different space for your legs and the positioning. So yeah, really key thing to keep the base of the feet absolutely grounded. So we can really feel into one of the Vayus, and we won't be focusing on the downward energy Vayu, the Apana Vayu. Tonight we're going to be focusing on the pranic Vayu. So you might in yoga have heard me talking about prana. That's a really key element of what we're working with energetically throughout the body within our yoga practice. So prana is to do with basically your vital energy within the body. So if you think about the respiratory system, you know, that focuses on the oxygen in the body. And we're really taking this another level from that. So you're thinking about the circulation of lymph, the circulation of blood. All of those circulatory systems are incorporated into this one yogic system called prana. So the Vayu is connected to prana, which is all pervading, but it takes it to another level. So these concepts of the Vayus are connected with the winds. So if you look at the texts and all of the religious studies and the writing about the Upanishads, which is the Vedic literature that was passed down from, you know, millennia ago in the Indus Valley, they obviously used to sit down at the feet of a guru and the knowledge would be shared in that fashion. And the Upanishads is a text that collates all of those different stories, and the Vayus is mentioned in one of the oldest of those texts. So we're talking about 1,500 years BC that they had these concepts of hymns that would propagate their knowledge. And in these hymns, they would talk about the earth, fire, water, the winds, and they would consider the body in a similar fashion. So these winds are within the body. So we have these elements within us and they govern certain actions. So if we focus on the prana Vayu, it's situated, I'll just let Elizabeth in, it's situated within the head and the chest. So prana Vayu is situated here and here, and it governs the inhalation, it governs the exhalation. Hi Elizabeth.
Hello.
Listen in or watch in or keep your camera off or on, it's up to you. Make sure you're comfortable on a seat.
I'm sitting in my conservatory at the back.
Super. Are you sat down on a seat, on a chair?
Sorry?
Are you on a chair? Are you comfortable?
I'm okay.
Excellent. Okay, so I've just started to speak about what the Vayus are. I'm recording, so I can send you the recording afterwards to catch up. So the Vayus are a concept that have come about through the Indus Valley, so the civilization that would propagate these ideas through Sanskrit. So So this is really old stuff. And they would talk about in the body having these concepts of winds. So in yoga, sometimes you talk about collating a weather report. It's quite similar to that. So these winds are to be kept within the body. And tonight's session is about the first Vayu, which is Prana Vayu. So feel free to mute yourself and I'll carry on speaking. And if you want to say anything, just unmute at any point. So Prana Vayu is situated in the chest, the head, and it governs respiration. So inhalation and exhalation. So we'll be working a lot with the inhalation and the exhalation. We'll be working with Samavritti, which is square breathing, where we come into a ratio of 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. But after we work with the inhalation and the exhalation quite freely, we're also going to do some Nadi Shodhana, and we're going to use the chair for various asana, but you don't have to use the chair at some points. So we want our joints to be completely mobilized in order for this pranic energy to flow about. And within a balanced, healthy body, we recharge and restore ourselves by keeping that pranic energy within the body. It's only when you have a disordered body that it leaks out. So it feels perhaps too porous, then you do need a sense of a boundary within. And that's a concept for another session, perhaps. So we're going to be focusing on this sense of inspiration, but also a sense of propulsion forwards. So we're going to be thinking about how we move ourselves forwards, not necessarily into the future, but literally forwards. So we'll be working in some standing poses in that way. So we'll be thinking about forward momentum. So I'd like to invite you to make sure you're comfortable in your seated position. Enjoy lifting up through the spine, making sure the feet are grounded. The knees are in a right angle. Relaxing the shoulders. Bring your attention to the face and the jaw. Relax that TMJ, your mastoid. The jaw here gets very tight. Relax that area of the body, perhaps bringing the fingers to the jaw and massaging. And opening and closing and wiggling that jaw from side to side. Softening the face. Softening around the eye sockets. Softening the temples and imagining that someone's pulling you from the top of your head. So if you have a top knot, imagine that you're being pulled by a string or rope all the way up towards the sky. So we have a nice long spine. Super. So we're going to start with our Pavan Muktasana series, our joint freeing series, which can be done from any position that we're in. So we're going to start with the wrists, lifting the arms in front of us. I'd like you to just experience what it feels like to bring the fingers down to the floor and the fingers up towards the ceiling, exploring how that is. If there's any restriction there, try not to push too far beyond it. I know it's feeling restrictive for me. And breathing with the action as you release the fingers up to the sky and down to the floor. Just one more time with that action. And then we're going to circle into the wrists here. Spiraling, keeping the shoulders down. Always good to remember, perhaps smiling, that seems to help the shoulders relax. And then rotate in the opposite direction. Coming into the breath here as you move, focusing on your inhalation, your exhalation. And lovely. We're now going to lift the arms up to the ceiling and touch the shoulders. Inhaling as we bring the arms out, exhaling as we touch the shoulders. How does that feel within the body? These simple mindful movements, do them as slowly as you can, 3 of those. As you touch down with the hands on the shoulders, we're going to spiral the elbows around as though we've got chalk on the elbows here, and we're literally scooping and creating circles, making some spaces in the shoulders and coming in the opposite direction. So working with 3s here. 1, 2, giving those armpits a bit of a breather. Lovely. Lift those elbows up towards the ceiling. How does that feel? Maybe you can bring the hands down onto the shoulder blades. Is that available to you? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. And then we're going to drop the left hand down towards the floor Reach up through the elbow and come into a lateral extension, lifting the gaze of the drishti up towards the ceiling. There may be something you can hold on to here on your chair, but maybe not. Let's see. Lovely. And then spiral the shoulder down to come to the other side, spiraling the opposite side up. Bring the hand to the shoulder blade if it's happy to, dropping the hand, really lengthening along this side seam here. Wake up the intercostal muscles in between the ribs, allowing for the breath to come in efficiently. We work within these lateral movements in order to help efficient breathing. Really important for our prana vayu and our respiration. Lovely. Bring the hands down. We're now going to inhale the arms up overhead and exhale to the left. Keep those knees directly in front of you. They might want to swivel and come into your easy twist. The back hand can come down to the back of the chair or around the back of the seat somehow. For my chair specifically, I can bring my hand down and really create some space. Inhaling to create that lift between the vertebrae. Exhale to rotate. Inhale and lift. Exhale and maybe find some more space to rotate. Inhale, allowing softness to come about through the belly. Exhale and rotate. Inhale the arms up overhead. Really focusing on that sense of alignment. And exhale, so bring the left hand, if you're coming to the right now, or vice versa, down onto the thigh. Inhaling, lift from the sitting bones. Exhale and rotate. And you'll find that your posture is very proper in the traditional sense as you sit here. Inhale. Exhale, remembering that that rotation comes through the thoracic spine and not through the lumbar. Inhale and exhale. The next inhalation. Inhale, lift the arms overhead, and we're going to fold forwards. So this can be straight back, or indeed you can just fold yourself over, and maybe you can touch your feet, maybe it's going to be your shins, feeling into this forward fold. Now, if you've got really low blood pressure, you might not want to stay here for too long. Allowing your head to hang heavy, maybe looking down at your toes, and release upwards and upright to bring the hands overhead. Inhaling and exhaling, bringing the hands down through the center. Super. Now you have a choice to where you put your hands now. So it's completely up to you. Now, if you want to really focus your attention and work a little bit stronger, you can bring your arms out to the side, waking up the fingers, or come into your cactus, relaxing the shoulders. So firstly, we're going to come into the feet. So I'd like you to lift the leg off the ground and spiral. Now, you don't have to have your hands up. You can have them at the hip points as an option for you, just to make things a little bit more focused on the lower body. Circling into the ankle, feeling into anything, any clicks, any air bubbles, and rotating in the opposite direction. That thigh is working quite hard to lift the leg here. Super. And bring the leg back in. Come to the other side, breathing as you extend through the heel, rotating through the foot. 3, going in one direction. Relax the shoulders wherever you are, whether it's with cactus hands or hands to hip, and then 3 in the opposite direction. Try not to rush this. I know I'm trying to rush this, that's for sure. Slow it down. Lovely. Bring the foot back in. We're now going to come to the opposite side and do a knee crank. So you might be able to lift the knee up towards your chest, bring the hands underneath the thigh, and simply open and close the knee joint, allowing for that synovial fluid to flow freely. Seems like a really simple thing to do, but this prana does get built up and blocked in various areas of the body. And those knots of energy we call granthis. And we often don't really consider that the knees and the ankles need a lot of attention. Hopefully those of you who have practiced with me quite a lot do know that I focus on those areas a lot. Lovely. And then if you've done your 3 on this side, let's just explore moving to the side and round, creating little circles within that hip. So this may be available to you. Just notice what's going on in the lumbar, what's going on in the spine, coming back in the opposite direction. it might be helpful to bring your hand to your knee. Just notice how that is. And after your third circle, going to drop to the side. So lifting the opposite knee up towards the chest, clasping the hands behind the thighs. We're cranking. Have we done the crank on this side? Nod if we have. You're like, oh, we're just doing it again. Right, so 3 on this side. Super. And then circling. So whether it is bringing the hand to the knee, finding a position for the hands that is useful. So actually it's really nice to have the hand on the inside of the thigh. 3, going in that direction. And really focus on the sole of the foot here. You want to keep the feet awake. Don't just let the feet dangle down. Lovely. Great. And then place the foot back down. Now we're going to come into a C shape, a flexion of the spine. So Slumpasana, allowing for the face to really fold forward. So you might be able to see your lovely soft belly. Hopefully that's sticking out to allow for the breath to come in. Maybe crawl the hands forwards down the shins, allowing for the head to hang heavy. Caution if you've got low blood pressure. Maybe you can tuck your fingers under your feet and give those a little bit of a massage with the feet. How does that feel? Lovely. And then removing the hands. Bring yourself upright. Bring the hands to the knees. Come into an extension, allowing the breastbone to move forwards. So I'm creating this other C shape within the spine. Lovely. And just moving through those shapes very gradually. Exhaling, flexion. Inhale, move the chest forwards. Inhalation. Exhale. And inhale. And come back into your upright position. So you might want to bring your hands to your belly. We're going to come into some breath work. So just coming back into this space and focusing on your inhalation and your exhalation in a ratio of 1 to 1. So when we work in a ratio, that 1 to 1 may be a count of 4 and then 4, maybe a count of 6 and then 6. So let's inhale together through the nostrils as long as they're not blocked. Inhaling smoothly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. We're now going to extend that inhalation, which is called Prana, to 6, if it feels comfortable within your body. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, which is known as Vichaka. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just remember that if that's too long for you, to come back to a shorter count. Inhale. 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll notice if you keep on like that, that it creates a shape that you can almost follow, like a stitch, a triangular shape going up and down. So it's a pure focus on inhalation and exhalation without a pause. So when we create a pause, and we will do later on in the session, that pause creates a space of stillness where you literally move up into the inhalation, pause, exhale, pause, which makes it more advanced, but we'll work with that. And those pauses later are called Kumbhaka. So keep on breathing, noticing that the energy is related to respiration and inspiration. So you've got the inhalation and the exhalation. But as we breathe in this way, allowing for that belly to soften, to inhale and let the diaphragm draw down, and exhale, diaphragm draws up, we're going to focus our attention on our Muller band, so our pelvic diaphragm, our pelvic floor. So just say hello to your pelvic floor for a moment, lifting that muscle, which is also like a hammock, just like the diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm. So that pelvic diaphragm, just say hello and lift and contract that pelvic floor. It's not a floor, it's a hammock. Lifting. Well, that's actually going against the Prana Vayu, which is the downward flow of energy, and it disrupts that downward flow and lifts it up into the chest in the region of the Prana Vayu. So I'd like you to work with the Muller band on the breath. So with an exhalation, you have the diaphragm lifting, and therefore we're going to have the pelvic diaphragm lifting at the same time. Exhale, lift pelvic floor. Inhale, relax pelvic floor. So you've got diaphragms flattening. Exhale, lift. Inhale, release. Now, have you got that pulsation going like waves? Inhale, drawing down. Exhale, lift. It can be really tricky to touch into. If you're doing the opposite, that's okay too, but you're working against this pressurized system. So I want to cultivate a sense of the efficiency of your diaphragms. Exhale, lift pelvic floor. Inhale, release. So you're almost pushing down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, release. Exhale, lift. Inhale, drawing downwards. So we can play with Muller band within our asana in a moment or two. And now we have an option. So for those of us who want to stay seated, that's fine. We're going to be working with a dog movement. Otherwise, you might want to bring yourself off your chair, and I'm swiveling this around so you can see me. We're coming into a dog. So firstly, I'll show you what it looks like when you use the back of the chair. You're holding the hands out nice and straight rather than holding onto the bar or whatever. And you can come into the most lovely, expansive spinal extension or lengthening along the erector spinae. Make sure the feet are grounded. If you're on your chair, we're going to do the same thing, but by releasing forwards. And if the arms are straining and preventing the breath to come about, just drop the arms. So you can almost just rest the rib cage down onto the thighs. You get the same effect of the spine than if you're in the downward dog. And those of you who are in your downward dog, focus on that Muller band. So you'll be breathing constantly, maybe extending the inhalation. And the diaphragm draws down. And with that inhalation, what occurs within the Muller band for you? And then exhale. What occurs naturally? So when you touch into that natural movement, you begin to create more awareness of what is occurring internally. Otherwise, as you inhale, allow the pelvic diaphragm to relax. So that drawing downwards energy. Exhale, a contraction and lifting of the pelvic floor. Inhale, pelvic floor pushes down, relaxes, expands. Downwards motion. Exhale, pelvic floor flies up, contracts. The same action as the respiratory diaphragm. And then for those of us who are with our chair in our downward dog, we're going to bring ourselves into Uttanasana, forward fold. If you're on your chair, you do the same thing and bring the hands down to a level that feels comfortable. If you have low blood pressure, you might want to come up to a seated position. If we're in our forward fold, you can pop the hands underneath the feet and come into that lovely hand massage as you rock forwards into the feet and the heels. And don't lose that sense of the breath here. Always coming back to the breath, noticing what's occurring. And then we're going to come forwards for those of us who are on the floor to come into downward dog. You can bring your hands, so you've got the thumb hooked around the base of the chair, coming into your downward dog. Super. Now, if you're on your chair, you want to bring yourself up and focus on a twist. So if you're sat on your chair, you're now coming into a twisting action. So you can bring your hands to your shoulders and twist to the side, maintaining integrity of the hips, coming through the thoracic and exhaling to the other side, bringing the gaze round. So you've got this rotation action. For those of you on the floor exploring your downward dog, we're going to come into rotation. So make sure your dog is nice and wide and close, because you're going to be wanting to inhale and exhale and rotate so you can spiral and perceive what's going on under your armpit. Give it a little sniff. Breathe into your rib cage. Allow for that expansion to take place. Try not to collapse into one hand too much, as you've reduced your points of contact to 3 from 4. And when you are happy to, in your own time, come and rotate to the opposite side. So you're really needing a shorter base of support here in order for the arm to be able to grab hold of the ankle. And if it's too far away, you can just bring the limbs closer. And when you come into rotation in this way, you'll want to be able to look under the armpit and feel fairly happy, really, in that downward dog action. Now, just be aware that you can always bring the knees back down onto the ground and come into child's pose. If you're feeling like it's too head heavy or you're feeling dizzy, you just bring yourself into a tiny little child's pose, a balasana. But you can always come back to this sense of the breath, the inhalation and the exhalation. So if you're not sure what you're doing, for instance, come back to the breath, come back to the Muller band, come back to what you know. Super. So if you're in your child's pose, we're going to tuck the toes underneath, extend up into downward dog, and we're going to press back through the hands into Uttasana. From your Uttasana, we're going to come into Utkatasana, bringing the arms up. So we're in chair pose. So if you're not on your chair, you're working with your Utkatasana. Feel the strength of your thighs. If you're on your chair, I want you to feel into the fronts of your legs and come up into a seated position, maybe lifting the sitting bones off the seat. So exploring that. What you can do is you can spiral the arms and maybe come all the way to standing. We can do the same within our standing Utkatasana, coming into pencil Tadasana. So you might be using the seat and you work within your own space, your own time, your own breath. Otherwise, you come into your standing Utkatasana chair pose, relaxing the shoulders. Use the arms if you want to, and then lift into your pencil Tadasana. Think about that middle toe, middle finger rather, spiraling up to the ceiling, onto your tippy toes. Flowing here with the breath. Touch into your Muller band. Lift your Muller band on an exhalation. Inhale. Pencil Tadasana. Flowing in between these points. Super. And lift. And on your last pencil Tadasana, and if you're coming up from your chair, standing, you can come onto your toes if you want to. We're going to hold that pencil, assimilating that prana, which touches into the Samana Vayu, and bring the heels back down. So we're going to touch the hands onto the shoulders now and come into a Kriya. If you're sat down on the chair, come into your Kriya in a similar fashion. We're all upright here. Now we're thinking about the breath here. It's going to be short, sharp inhales and exhales coming through the nostrils here. If you've got a blocked up nose, you might want to get a tissue and just feel into this. Now the first option here is keeping the drishti forwards, and this will prevent you from feeling dizzy. There you go. Exhale, inhale. You've got a rotation going on. One side's inhale, one side's exhale. I want you to do 15 of those. If you want something a little bit stronger, you can bring the gaze into it. When you've finished your 15, come back to center, bring the hands down on the knees, and witness how you feel. So you've built up some energy in there. Has that gone up to the head? Do you feel woozy? Are you feeling energized? How does that feel within your body? Super. And then for those of us who are standing up, we're going to come into a lunge, so a high lunge. And you can have this chair backwards if you would prefer, and make sure the spacing is right for you, so a high lunge. If you're on your chair, you want to come into a similar thing. I'm just trying to think how that works. It's yes, so we're coming into the hamstring stretch, so it's bending the knee and then you're flaring the toes up towards the ceiling and folding forwards. So it's more of a Hanuman stretch. So that's what you do when you're on your chair. Otherwise, we're coming into lunge. Feeling into that hip flexor, lengthening. Super. Feel nice and strong here. So this is where we're going to work with a sense of moving to the 4. So draw those hands down into Lotus Mudra. So Lotus Mudra for all of us is the little finger and the thumb and these flared fingers. It's the flower born in the muck and the mud. And wherever you are, whether it's on your chair or in your lunge, feeling strong and really sitting yourself within the heart space. So we've done this action before with the wrists. So we're going to be drawing the energy down, spiraling the hands, the back of the hands to come forwards. But we're bringing ourselves into the 4 with the arms here. And you feel into that, breathing here. And then we're going to spiral back and come into our upright position. So you want your gaze to be forwards. You're bringing the hands into this rotation. Backs of the hands come together, moving forwards and bring them back. So we're going to do that with the breath. Okay, bring the hands into that seat of the chest, of the heart space. And if you're doing that on your seat, you can bring yourself forwards like this, flattening the back and coming back in. So inhale, extend forwards, exhale, come back. Slowing the breath down here. Make this flow with the breath. For those of you in lunge, you'll be feeling your legs potentially tiring. Use the breath to work into that. We're going to work with about 15 of these. So you may be at about 4 or 5. And if you come into your Ujjayi breath, where you can audibly hear the breath the ocean breath coming in through the throat. That can be really helpful. So propelling yourself into the future forward and coming back to that center point. Does an automatic lift come in with the arms and the hands moving in this lotus mudra fashion? How does it feel? I know I automatically lift the arms or the wrist movement sets an intention. Allow for this prana to flow freely within the body. Soft and slow. Great. Now, wherever you are with this, once you've come to your 15, you'll want to swap sides. So bring the hands to heart center. On those of you in lunge, I recommend just bring the foot forwards to meet the other foot in one go. Settle into your Tadasana and come back. If you're on your chair, it's much easier. You're lifting the leg, drawing the other leg out. The toes must be completely up towards the floor. Bring the hands into your heart space. Start to come into your mudra, lotus mudra. Slowly and mindfully setting that intention of moving the awareness with this movement. So if you're standing in your lunge, make sure you're not going into your lumbar too much. Adjust the tailbone, adjust the legs. Find a space of effortlessness by utilizing the breath. Settling the hands down into the heart space. And if you're anything like me, counting can be an issue. You can get distracted. So when you get to your 15, make sure you do equal amounts on each side. It might be a bit of a guesstimate. When you've done your 15, we're simply going to bring the foot forwards and come into a Parsvottanasana action. The knees are straight, maybe a slight bend at the front, just to make sure you're not locking, especially if you're hypermobile, to come into this space where the hip points are facing forwards. And if you're in your situation on the seat, you're going to be in a similar space as you were before, because we're going to be coming into triangle Trikonasana, but from a certain space. So if you're in your chair, I want you to extend the left leg, bring the left hand down to the side and lift up through the right arm. If you're standing, I want you to do the same kind of thing. So wherever you're at within the practice is all good. So you're feeling into a side extension, lateral extension. So if you're in your straightened knees, Parsvottanasana, how does that feel? We're coming into this with a Peter Blackaby approach. So it's more of a functional yoga rather than your classic Trikonasana that you might have been taught. So you've got the hip points almost facing forwards, as opposed to this sense of coming into two sheets of glass. And we're going to rotate, apologies, I'm going backwards here so you can't see me. So the left arm comes down to the left shin. The right arm reaches up towards the sky. Can you feel that length along the side of the body? Come around the other side. Coming into Parsvottanasana or the Trikonasana and the triangle shape. So we're not trying to lock any knees and we're not trying to shear into the hips. So this makes this action purely about this side seam of the body, which is really helpful when we're considering the breath. To come out of this pose, we're going to inhale and lift with the arms. Okay? And the same with if you're in the chair, you lift yourself up and out. And we're going to come to the other side, allowing for the hand to slide down. But those of us who are standing up, you bring that leg forwards and swap sides. So you've got this kind of straightened knees effect. Slight bend at the knee, not to lock. And we're going to allow the spiraling to take place as you lift, like a pulley system, lifting up through the left arm and allowing for a slight rotation to take place. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears because they'll want to come up to the ears. And maybe you straighten that leg if it feels good. Don't feel like you need to bring the hand down to the floor, and allow for the side of the body to really hold this position for you. And inhale and release. Super. To come out of this, we're going to bring the leg forwards, tuck the leg up towards the body, and this is where we come into propulsion. So we'll do it standing first of all. So we're going to propel ourselves forwards into Virabhadrasana 3 with our arms, focusing our drishti, coming into Warrior 3, propelling ourselves forwards, but then drawing ourselves back to center, lifting up the leg 3 times while we're standing. When we're sitting in this way, to propel ourselves forwards, we're going to literally just work with moving the body forwards to lift. And I know it seems like an incredibly simple thing to do, but it's embodying what we're intending, the sankalpa and the intention of our practice. So we're focusing on doing 3 on one side with Virabhadrasana 3, and then we draw the leg forwards, hold the knee up towards the chest, and drop down before grounding that leg down to come to the other side. Lovely. Propelling, so we're thinking about this hinging action taking place. Those micro adjustments take place within the foot, propelling ourselves forwards. You can explore how much propulsion you're happy to use today, but you might find that your balance goes off. Propelling the knee back up 3 times on this one side. Lovely. And then bring the foot down. So we're all going to come to sit on our chair now, making sure that the chair is in a safe place. We bring our hands onto the top, the back of the head. Let the shoulders relax. And just open up to the front and draw down to open up the back. Feeling into the back around the scapula. Super. And we're going to bring the hands to the hip points and send some circles into the hips here. So we do this grist the mill action sometimes with the legs out to the side. We're circling, feeling into the sitting bones, grounding down through the feet, coming through and then back through the opposing way. So we're now going to come into something called Samravruti. So Sama means equal in Sanskrit, and we're doing an equal breath. But this time, as we were before, we're not just thinking about inhalation and exhalation. We're also going to be focusing on the kumbhaka, so the pauses within our breath. So sitting up nice and tall, and remembering that the inhalation involves an expansion around the belly, relaxing the belly, exhale, draw in the belly. You can bring your hands to wherever feels suitable for you, so it might just be on the knees. And bring the mind to the breath. So the ratio for Samravruti is 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, so it's equal, and you're focusing on the breath as though it's a square, which is lovely, but it's tricky. So the pause is the same length as the inhalation, the exhalation. So let's focus on maybe the inhalation being 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. So we'll begin to inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. If the count is too slow, you can do it slightly faster. Or if you're a super free diver swimmer and you can do this, you can extend, it's fine. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. And whether you've carried on with that count or you've extended that exhalation, that pause or the exhalation, the Kumbhaka, come back to a natural breath and just touch in with how that feels within your own body. It can be tricky to play with Kumbhaka. You want to touch into the pause without it creating tension. It takes a lot of practice to extend in your own time. So it's a really nice one to do in your own practice. And we're going to come into Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. So this is another one that works within the energetic system, within the body, within the chest, and is related to the Prana Vayu, the winds within the region of the chest and the head and all around. So with our Nadi Shodhana, it's alternate nostril breathing. So firstly, we're going to touch into whether we're blocked on one side or the other, because it's often very common. So bring your forefinger up to your left nostril and just inhale and exhale quite freely. How does that feel? Is it clear? Is it feeling a bit odd? Is it a bit achy? How are the sinuses? Do you need a tissue? If you need to get rid of any sort of snot, you can get a tissue and you can just snort it out. Come to the other side, maybe using the other finger. And the same, just inhaling and exhaling to start with. Because there's nothing worse than trying to do a breathing exercise with blocked nostrils. Inhaling, exhaling. And then as long as they're both clear, you can come into the fingering. So I would love to do Prana Vayu with the non-fingering version of alternate nostril breathing. And if you feel like you're really honed on this, you can just do this with intention, basically. So you intend for inhalation to come up through one nostril, and you intend for the exhalation to come through the other nostril. It is possible, but maybe we'll stick with the fingering. So Dear Mudra, we're using the thumb and we're using the ring finger. And the fingers, depending on your the spacing and the length of your fingers and the palm, you can either point them up towards the third eye or you can roll them in towards the middle of the hand. So I can't quite do that very comfortably, so it's going to be more of an upward action, and actually it's really nice to point up towards the third eye center. So firstly, we're just going to inhale and exhale, closing the right nostril, inhaling and exhaling through the left. And when we get into the Nadi Shodhana, I will talk you through it, but let's focus on doing this for a considerable amount of time once you get the hang of things. Inhaling and exhaling. Starting with the air coming through the left nostril, which is the encouraged way of doing things because it's linked in with a greater sense of relaxation. When you breathe through the right nostril, it's Surya Vedana, which is a more energizing sun-related breathing practice. So inhaling and exhaling. After the next inhalation, we swap the fingers and exhale through the right nostril. Inhaling as to follow, swapping fingers and exhaling through the left. Inhaling through the left, exhaling through the right. Inhale through the right, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, exhale through the left. Now you can go off piste with this and start to lengthen the inhalation and the exhalation. You may begin to notice that pause that settles in at the top of the inhalation and the bottom of the exhalation. Inhaling through one side, swapping fingers, and exhaling through the other side. Dropping the mind down at the end of the exhalation, touching base with the pause. Before you inhale, at the top of the inhalation, there's a pause there. Can you sense into that? Swapping the fingering, remembering not to try and force any pressure into the nostrils, and exhaling out the other side. Inhaling. Swapping fingers, exhaling. Kumbhaka. Inhaling. Kumbhaka and swap fingers, exhale. Kumbhaka. Inhale. Swap fingers, Kumbhaka. Exhale. Kumbhaka. Inhale. Swap fingers with the Kumbhaka. Exhale. One more round without me talking you through it. I want you to finish on the left side. Remember not to press too hard into the nostrils. A very gentle touch will do. And when you finish with your last exhalation on the left, just drop the hands to the thighs and notice how that feels within the head. How does it feel around the front of the forehead? If you can feel anything indeed, is there any difference? Something to leave you with. And you have the choice now, if you want to, you can just stay in your seated position or you can come down into Shavasana. So it might be nice to change the position of your body. Otherwise, you're going to come into a relaxation in a seated position. And if you're going to come into the relaxation in the seated position, you close your eyes. You allow for the shoulders to rest down and away from the ears. And the head, or rather the legs, hang nice and heavy. For those of you who've come down into Shavasana, allow for the femur to roll out of the hip sockets and the arms, rolling out of the shoulder sockets. Let earth and gravity utilize the mass of your body and create that weight where the bones settle and the ligaments settle and the muscles settle. We're softening the front of the body as you would do if you're an upright or if you're in supine. A sense of lightness as the air meets the skin in the front of the body, and a sense of density and weight into the back of the body. And I'm going to sit upright to talk you through. I'm sure, because we've been upright and not lying down, that those of us who are used to being in the supine position for some of our practice are really feeling the weight of the body, enjoying the gravity and the earth beneath them. So I'm just going to read you a little bit from the medieval text about the Vayus. So this is 14th, 15th century yogic literature. And it talks about, this is the sloka, or verse 3, chapter 2. It's a really dense book. As long as the Vayu, air and prana, remains in the body, that is called life. Death is when it leaves the body. Therefore, retain Vayu. So Vayu, especially the prana Vayu, is that which inspires us. It's that which animates us in life. And it goes on to say, death is not total. The physical body dies or the mind dies, but not the soul. Death is not extinction. It is a process of disintegration. The components of the body, the 5 tattvas, Atasha, ether, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Apas, water, Prithvi, earth, which are associated with the 5 prana Vayus, disintegrate and go back to their original source. Akasha tattva goes back to Akasha, Vayu to Vayu, Agni to Agni, Apas to Apas, Prithvi to Prithvi, and then the Jitvama moves out. So this Jitvama, spirit, ego, astral body, or whatever you might call it, is something that survives death. The pranas also do not die. They move out of the body and return to their source. If death is to be averted, the process unlinking all the 3 components, i.e. prana, mind and soul, has to be stopped. So in this sloka, we are told to retain the Vayu. So Vayu means air, but it does not refer to the gross air and its chemical properties. It indicates pranic air. And in the pranic body, Pingala, which we deal with within our Nadi Shodhana, channelizes prana shakti, but prana Vayu moves throughout the whole body like waves of energy. It can be likened to an electromagnetic field where the energy is in constant motion. There are 5 main Vayu functions known as Apana, Prana, Samana, Udana, Vyana. They are the different processes and manifestations of one Vayu, just as the various limbs of a man comprise the one body, or the various limbs of a woman comprise the one body. So pranic absorption takes place on a major scale in the thoracic region. So it's that region around the diaphragm that we were working with within our practice, and is the function of prana Vayu. And latterly we'll deal with other Vayus. So the Vayu of elimination of prana, as in Apanasana, which deals with urinary, excretory and reproductive organs. And you've got Udana, which is the upward action with the throat. You have Samana, which is an assimilation, the drawing inwards to the center line. And Vyana, which is circulation that pervades the whole body. And there's a really lovely image in this book of the pranic body. So just allow for those words to wash over you. You didn't need to listen to any of that. That's absolutely fine. You absorb what you need to absorb and release what you need to release. But can you touch base with a sense of what the prana, Vayu, the wind, that sense of movement that comes in through respiration, situated in the chest and the head. How does that feel within your body? And then as we finish the practice, with no rush at all, at the end of this following sound, begin to move the extremities, the fingers and the toes, and if you're upright, begin to focus on your inhalation to bring your attention to the forefront. So at the end of the following sound, roll over onto your right side in a fetal position if you're in Shavasana. If you're sitting upright, you can begin to stretch and release the limbs. Stretching open one side and the other. And really notice if you're lying down on the side of your body, notice that sense of grounding through the one side of the body that meets the ground. And at the end of the following sound, removing any glasses, come up to an upright position. So we all finish in the same plane, the upright plane. And if you'd like to bring your eyes to a close, if that feels comfortable, or if you want to gaze softly down in front of you, let's bring the hands to meet together to create some of that heat. Not quite Agni, more tapas. And rub the palms together. So place the palms on the eyes, so finishing with a bit of palming. Allow for that pressure of the palms to work its way around the eye socket, creating circles coming into the nose and out to the outer reaches of the eye sockets. And then draw the hands together through the midline, so through the third eye center, pressing gently with the thumbs and bowing yourself down, coming into a forward fold, the space of humility, drawing the arms down through the midline. Bring the hands to the heart center. Namaste. So, slightly different format tonight. I hope that Prana Vayu has made some tangible sort of sense within your body. Maybe it's touched upon something, maybe it's a bit obscure, maybe it's quite a subtle sense of what a system of understanding something. So yeah, if you want to talk about it, that's fine, that's all good. Hopefully we'll begin to unpick those things with our other sessions, our latter sessions. Prana Vayu is quite an important one because it governs inspiration, respiration, the inhalation, the exhalation. I really personally love the downward force, the downward energy of elimination. We'll come to that at another session. So yeah, hope everyone feels okay. Still got a headache from heat stroke. I hope no one else feels the same. And it was lovely to see you. I've got the recording, so I'm going to just pause that. And yeah, hang on a second.
Did you get heat stroke today?
I think